Many of you have heard us talk about Hormone Harmony by Happy Mammoth, the supplement that helps women maintain optimal hormone levels, with over 50,000 glowing reviews from women worldwide and 98% saying they recommend it to friends and family. Now you can take those results even further by pairing it with their prebiotic collagen protein, which helps restore gut lining integrity, promoting overall hormone levels. Now, I've struggled with occasional digestive issues, and since taking the prebiotic collagen protein, I've noticed a real lift in my energy and overall well-being. Happy Mammoth is dedicated to making women's lives easier. And that means using only science-backed ingredients that have been proven to work for women. They make no compromise when it comes to quality, and it shows. Right now, you can try prebiotic collagen protein and Hormone Harmony risk-free and get 15% off your entire first order with the code DATEABLE at checkout. That's happymammoth.com and use the code DATEABLE for 15% off today. So I've tried a lot of things that claim to make life easier, but Knix leak-proof period underwear is one of the only brands that truly delivers. I no longer wear clunky pads or toxic tampons, and the defining moment for me was when I was climbing Mount Kilimanjaro, living in fear that my period would come early. And then I remembered I brought my trusty Knix period underwear, and that fear completely subsided. There's no way I could have been changing pads and tampons at 19,000 feet. So Knix, Knix, has completely changed how I feel about my period. Their leak-proof technology looks, feels, and washes like normal undies, but have a range of absorbencies for your lightest to heaviest days. Up to 6 super tampons, so you are totally covered. Plus, Knix has patented bonded edges to prevent side leaks. And with buttery soft, stretchy fabric in cuts like thong, bikini, boy short, high rise, and more, you'll find just the right fit. So head to Knix.com and you'll see why I love Knix. Don't forget to use code DATEABLE for 20% off your order. Get leak-proof undies, amazing bras, and more. That's KNIX.com, code DATEABLE, Knix.com. Hi, I'm Yue Xu.
And I'm Julie Kraftchick.
We're active daters turned dating insiders.
Here to dive into everything modern dating and relationships.
Welcome to Dateable. Hello, friends.
Welcome back to another episode of Dateable.
No honeymoons to report on this week.
Sadly.
Unless you went on a second one.
I wish. I feel like kind of stupid even saying this. And I think I would have rolled my eyes at someone like this 10 years ago. People say there's a post-honeymoon blues or post-wedding blues. And I'm definitely experiencing it. And I think it sounds so lame though, because it's you met your person, you had the wedding, all the things that I thought I wanted and obviously still want and am happy that that happened. But there's definitely this kind of return to baseline that is a little tough to navigate.
I think it's so normal to feel that because your life was so occupied with planning the wedding, planning the honeymoon. Now that it's over, it's building up, and then now it's okay, now living the day-to-day life. But I heard this really great rule someone said was the rule of thirds.
Okay.
That in any accomplishment or milestone you have, a third of it you're going to feel incredible about. Mm-hmm. A third of it you're going to feel incredibly sad about, and a third of it you'll feel whatever about. So it's it's okay to have such polarizing feelings because it's very natural.
Yeah, I think a piece of it too is that it's masked some of the other stuff I need to figure out. Because I was so preoccupied with wedding planning and, all the organization that comes from that, it allowed me to shift focus. And now that that's gone, it's the light has been shined back into the areas that I actually really need to figure out. And it's daunting. And I think too, it's especially, I don't know, I feel I know I need to just take a step back, but it's I was just thinking the other day, I'm oh my God, if we want to have kids, it needs to be soon. If we want to get a dog, it needs to be soon. We live in a 1-bedroom apartment. How are we going to fit all this stuff? I was looking up TikToks of how you have your child in a 1-bedroom apartment. And
it's doable.
It is, but I'm just oh my God, it's just a lot all at once. what am I doing with my career in life? Like all this stuff. So anyways, and if I go back to like a full-time job, you got to do it before you're like visibly pregnant, right? Or no one's going to hire you.
Oh, I know. But that's the problem with our society. It's always like once you get somewhere, the question's always like, what's next?
I know.
And then once you have kids, it's like, when are you going to have the second one? And once you have the second one, it's like, when are you going to get on the wait list for the best schools in the area? It's never ending.
It isn't. I mean, I think I just need to like take a deep breath and slow down. But I do think that, we've talked a lot. We had Dr. Lori Santos on the podcast, and she talked about like the arrival fallacy of like, once you actually arrive, like you think that like all the happiness will be there. We've talked about this in our book too, when we had Dr. Jenny Tays on our podcast too. A lot of experts have quoted this of just like there is this baseline happiness that we have. And we think all of these external events is going to raise it. And maybe they do momentarily, but it always brings us back to our baseline. So clearly the true, the true enlightenment in it all is to find that within and not rely on these milestones and external moments.
But to celebrate when you want to celebrate, I think like I always go the opposite way where I'm like, okay, I can be happy for a day, but then I have to get back to level setting. But I think you have to allow yourself that time to just relish. This is a major milestone in my life, and I'm going to just live in it, marinate in it for a little bit longer.
Yeah. And I think like too, I think it's like for me, I'm like, oh, it's over, move on. But yeah, like you could marinate longer and clearly like appreciate that. I think I've been having that. I've been like working on our like wedding photo books and stuff. So it's like bringing me back. And clearly that's the benefit of photos and all of that is to get transported back. And clearly like, living day to day with my best friend and partner, like all of that. Again, I'm not trying to like take that for granted. I think it's just something that, I mean, honestly, I think it's really just showing some other voids that I have going on.
Sure. Yeah. But that's going to happen whether you get married or not, right? Like
you got to dress up eventually.
You got to face the music of life.
You do. Life. Always a fun one.
And our guest today has really addressed and faced the music with his own commitment issues or challenges, I guess you could say.
Challenges, yeah.
Oh, because we all have challenges when it comes to relationships, and his may be this idea of commitment. But we met Steve Budd when we were doing our talk at Los Positos Community College, and he is one of the professors there, and he performed right before us. And when I say perform, he truly performed because he had a one-man show.
I looked at you and I was like, are we in the right place? Like, we're literally getting up there to like answer questions about our book, How to Be Dateable. And he's giving like a full-on performance with like different voices and scenes and like a whole acting thing. And yes, it was variety. we were in the right place.
We were. And his one-man show sort of blew my mind. It's called Oi, What They Said About Love. It started out kind of shocking because there's like sexual content in there and it gets a little explicit.
For all students.
But he's, one of the professors there. So Julie and I were looking at each other like, is this okay? Is this okay to be said? But the story really just unravels in such a beautiful way, and it depicts sort of all the different POVs that Steve has experienced in his lifetime about commitment and love and marriage and how much he wanted it so bad and how terribly he had actually implemented a lot of these thoughts about commitment. So after this one-man performance, we were both like, he would be a really interesting guest on our show.
I know. I love finding guests in this type of unexpected, serendipitous type of way. Like, who would have thought that we would, find someone? But I think there were a couple things that stood out. I mean, first of all, he's a great storyteller. So I think people will love that aspect. Yeah. But the other part is it was before our book talk about How to Be Dateable, our book, which has the dating archetypes quiz that many of you have taken taken already. And if you haven't, you should go to our website right now, How to Be Dateable, and go take that quiz because it's really invaluable info. But as we were watching, both Yue and I were like, Steve is a dreamer through and through. He is living proof of this archetype, you know, the one that just wants love and like has this very romantic vision of love and almost fantasy-like definition of what relationships could be like. And almost like it's getting in his own way. And also he should be leading into it at the same time. Kind of what we say about the archetypes. They are your, you know, biggest asset, and then also maybe the downfall of why things aren't falling into place the way you thought they would be. Right. So it really tied in well, and I'm glad that we actually went deeper with him on this podcast because he is, you know, a performer, he's funny, all of that was in his performance, but I feel like we got really vulnerable with him on this episode of just like beneath all that, like what is it that's really holding him back from being in the relationship that he says he wants? He says he wants to be married. He wants all these things, but has had multiple opportunities for it to come to fruition, but hasn't been able to move forward. So yeah, I guess if you're feeling that like commitment phobia yourself, or like many of us have dated someone like this where, you know, they're all in, they're ready to go, and then just suddenly they can't. I've been there.
Very much so. And it's so relatable because he is a English professor. So he is magnificent with words. And I can see how you can, many of us do this. You get so tied up in the storytelling of dating that you lose sight of what you're actually trying to get out of dating. And we've had so many of you listeners and our friends be like, oh, I have this great story to tell you, or my love life should be a movie, or I should write a book about my dates. And our answer is always like, that's not the point though. The point is not all the stories you've collected. The point is, what have you learned and what are you trying to accomplish? So I think in our conversation, through his beautiful, very visual words, I think we were able to get to what does Steve Budd actually want?
Yeah, and we actually drew some parallels on a very popular episode that we did a couple seasons ago at this point. Now I'm blanking on what season it was, but it was with Yue's friend, who's a return guest, Ryan Van Duzer. I'm going to look it up. Okay, so we had him. Oh, yeah. We had him on. Okay, here we go. So it was our first episode we had him on was season 8, episode 19, Quest for Love. Then the last episode we had was season 18, so 10 seasons later, episode 12. Season 18, episode 12. Are long-term relationships for everyone was the question that we were posing. And again, he was that type. And look, they're two different people. So I feel like sometimes I would like kind of conflate the, you know, it's easy to go there, right? To like see something in someone else.
Same,
or like, yeah. And I do want to point out two different people, own stuff going on, different mindsets, all that. There was a similarity in the sense that they wanted love. Like they weren't the type of guys that were like, no, I don't want to be in a relationship. Because sometimes commitment phobic people will just tell you right out. Like they're like, I don't want to be in a relationship. And we sometimes choose not to listen to them. So there's that type. Then there's the type that like pretends they do to kind of like womanize or like play the field. And they're not that either. They're like this third bucket of they want it, but there's like something inside. Blocking them that they can't. And like the capacity just isn't there. And like you could say maybe they just haven't met the right person, but when it becomes like a pattern over many, many years, and I think both of them will admit this. I'm not like saying anything against them. They both flat out admitted like this is a me thing. Like there's something within me. And that was why we pose that question, like, are long-term relationships for everyone?
And it gets so tricky because this bucket of people fall fast. So if you're dating someone like this, you're like, wow, this is like my forever person, or this is my person because they feel so deeply and so strongly about me. And it's not false. They truly feel those feelings. But at some point, those feelings do not overtake their rational side, or I don't even know, like this other side of them that challenges this feeling of love. And then that's when these relationships end. And with Ryan Van Duzer, I think to me, it's like on the receiving end, having been in relationships like that, it's tragic that you are receiving all this love in the beginning. And it's not love bombing either. That's also a different bucket.
It's different.
It's not
It's not malicious.
It's not malicious. They're not trying to manipulate. These are true, authentic feelings. So to feel all that love in the beginning and to one day have this person be like, I no longer feel this way about you, or I just don't have the capacity to move forward with you. It is heartbreaking. It's so tragic.
I mean, I feel like this happened with my ex, the on and off again one. Like, I feel like it was a similar feeling of like, I just do not have the capacity. Like I want to be with you, but I just can't do it. And I think that's why it was on again, off again, because it was like hopeful thinking each time.
Yeah.
And then it just like would inevitably get to that same point where it really required like the effort and like pushing yourself to be in a relationship. A relationship is a choice every day, and it's uncomfortable and it's hard sometimes. And especially when you're like facing your own stuff, and a lot of people don't want to do it, or they feel like they can't do it.
No. And you'll learn. Re-listen to the Ryan Van Duzer episodes. Re-listen to this one if you've already listened to this one a few times. You'll learn on the receiving end, you cannot push someone's capacity for love. It is not it's not in your skill set. It's also not your responsibility to do so. So even though we're saying like these guys, they have these authentic feelings and they truly feel the love, it is also on you to say, I'm walking away because they've hit their capacity with me. It is not on you to say, but the feelings are there. Like, no, it doesn't matter.
I think that's the biggest learning. And that actually is why I like doing episodes like this. Like, first of all, it's like good to hear the psyche of someone to understand. Hopefully it's also therapeutic for them too, to like get this out and just start talking about it. Like, I mean, again, like if someone's authentic state is to be on their own, then like all for that, like there's no shame in that. What I hope though is like that people aren't like settling for being on their own because like they can't push through the thing, right? So I hope that this also gives the people that we have on the podcast the clarity. And, you know, UA and I like respect every guest and we want to hear out their story, because I think it's important for all of us, right, to like get to a place where we can talk and like actually, you know, rectify what's going on. And there's a reason why talk therapy is so helpful, right? To like get it out. But then also for the people that have had this happen to them, where they've fallen for people like this, I feel like if I could take one thing back in my love life, it would be these like feelings like I wasn't good enough because someone couldn't commit or couldn't make that next step with me. Because I look back on a lot of my exes. In fact, I'd say I think all of them are still single, which I don't know what that says about the people I was choosing, but it also tells me like it wasn't me. It just like was them, like whether that's their choice or they had a block or whatever it was, like it's not personal. And I think it's so easy to take it personally.
It is. And then a lot of them are honest. You'll say like, I've totally hit my capacity, or I just can't move forward. I can't take our relationship to the next level. And so many of us see that as a green light to go, like push, just be patient and, you know, stay around or try to help them through this. And nope. Does not end well.
It's hard when it started off strong. I think a lot of us get attached to that story. So
Yes. And it's like, it always starts out magical. It's not just like strong feelings. It's like, I've never felt this way about anybody before. This feels so unique. And like, you're so different. You're so special. And those are all true, but it doesn't uphold the feelings that come later.
And like, look, we're not going to solve commitment phobia in this episode, unfortunately.
We're not?
I wish we had this like breakthrough and all of a sudden he's calling his ex and he's like, I'm ready. Let's do it. Unfortunately, we did not have that. But I think there's something still valuable of just like understanding and giving that grace like to others, but also to yourself if this is to happen. Like, it's not personal.
And I just want to say this too, because I think if we're trying to take this from an enlightened point of view, your capacity for commitment is on a spectrum.
Yeah.
And these two people we've spoken to just happen to be on the earlier end of the spectrum where they're like, I can't commit past this point. But we all have a point where we are pushed to the limit of our commitment capacity and we say we can no longer commit past this. So it's just where you are on the spectrum, and some people are just earlier in that stage, right? So like we all could hit that capacity at some point in our lives.
Yeah. I mean, I think too, a lot of it obviously is timing. I think what's interesting with these people is like we are hitting them a little later on in life and there's patterns that have emerged. So yeah, it's just, you could argue again, and this is the thing that we have with Ryan too. It's hard to know, like, have they just not met the right people? It's possible.
I don't know. I'm going to say it's not, they have not met. No. The right person will come along when their capacity for commitment expands.
Yeah. Well, let us know what you think. Always love the conversations, especially if you are a Spotify listener, or even if you're not, go over there. You can leave comments. If you have a Spotify account, it's fun to see the comments on the specific episodes. And of course, if you're on Apple Podcasts, you can leave it in the comments of a review. We love reading these, and especially when it's like, just sometimes it's good to hear what other people think, right? Like we're just talking to each other. So it's good to have a conversation. I miss the good old days. I don't want to say the good old days of the pandemic, but the good old days when we had the Facebook group that was very active during the pandemic, where every Sunday they would get together. People would get together and like discuss the episodes. And I think if we can emulate that even on, social media and Spotify or wherever, like that's better than nothing.
Yeah, it's like our own little book club, but it's a podcast club.
Yep. And speaking of books, remember to go out and get How to Be Dateable. And the same goes there. If you've read the book, please leave us a review on Amazon, wherever you bought it, actually. Amazon tends to be the easiest, but if you bought it on Barnes & Noble, you can even go to their website, or on Audible, you can go there. Leave us some feedback of what you thought of the book. It really warms our heart. We got a really good review the other day that we saw on Amazon that made us both really happy. So please leave that and let us know, because we put a lot of time and effort into all this stuff. It's good to see the feedback loop.
So you can follow this person's footsteps. Their review says, I heard this duo speak and take questions at a library in Southern California, which is probably Santa Monica. I've listened to way more than my share of dating seminars and coaches and have heard a lot of contradictory advice. These women bring a more nuanced, fresh view. Not your mother's advice. They narrate the audible version. It's worth a listen.
I love it.
So good.
Awesome. Cool. Well, before we get into it with Steve, let's take a minute to hear from our sponsors.
Did you know that 38% of adults who have ever used a dating site or app report receiving unwanted sexually explicit messages or images? That's why we're so excited that the dating app Highly just introduced a new feature called Consent Guard that reduces unsolicited sexual behavior and starts a conversation about digital sexual consent. Because maybe you don't want to get a nude sent to you in the middle of your workday, but you are down for some sexy banter once you're home and you've been chatting for a bit. When the person you're chatting with sends a sexualized image or text, Highly sends you a notification, and you can decide to accept or deny the message. The power is in your hands. Launched in 2017, Highly encourages everyone to date as you are. Finally, an app that promotes authenticity, self-acceptance, open-mindedness, and inclusivity. No wonder Highly, short for Hey, I Like You, has become one of the top dating apps in U.S. app stores, with over 39 million downloads worldwide. If you want safer dating, download Highly from the App Store or Google Play, or check out Highly.com. That's spelled HILY.com. Date as you are, safely with Highly. As the air turns crisp and the holidays draw near, comfort becomes the best gift of all. And Quince delivers layers that last: sweaters, outerwear, and everyday essentials that feel luxurious, look timeless, and make holiday dressing and gifting effortless. And Quince has it all, from $50 Mongolian cashmere sweaters made for everyday wear, denim that never goes out of style, silk tops and skirts that add polish, and down outerwear built to take on the season, perfect for gifting or upgrading your own wardrobe. Now, I know I live in warm Southern California, but I do love wearing cashmere, and the Quince short sleeve cashmere sweaters are my go-to. They're just the perfect layering piece, and they truly elevate every outfit. Step into the holiday season with layers made to feel good, look polished, and last. From Quince. Perfect for gifting or keeping for yourself. Go to quince.com/dateable for free shipping on your order and 365-day returns. Now available in Canada too. That's QUINCE.com/dateable to get free shipping and 365-day returns. Quince.com/DATEABLE.
Okay, let's talk about the commitment conundrum.
We very much enjoyed your one-man show, and it's so nice to have you on our show now to talk about your one-man show and what's inspired you to do that, because you've never been married. You still want to.
Yeah.
As far as we're concerned, yes, okay. And you've been performing a solo show called What They Said About Love, now titled Oi, What They Said About Love.
Love it.
About your search for the one, with interviews with married couples and how they met, married, made things work, or maybe things that didn't work. And you, Steve, are still hoping to find that special someone. Welcome to Dateable.
Thank you so much for having me. It's great to be here.
We're so excited because, like you mentioned, we loved your show. And I think there's just so much to unpack too, of just, looking at relationships over time and then wanting to, meet that person that ends up being the one you marry and longing for it, but still feeling hopeful. I think hope is the key part that really keeps people going. So maybe you can start by sharing a bit about just your relationship history over time and kind of what stood out to you. And I know that's a lot of years to unpack. We don't have to go to everyone, but high level.
Yeah, I'm saying this could take several hours if you want. Is this like a therapy session?
How much time do we have? Yeah.
How much time? Yeah. My relationship history. Well, I've had some significant relationships, but I had one relationship that ended a couple years ago that was kind of off and on for like 10, 11 years.
Okay.
So I guess that's my longest, but it was so off and on, it's hard to know exactly how long it was. Before that, I guess the most serious relationships I had lasted like max 2 years, year and a half. So yeah,
okay.
I've been with people who I seem to have gotten in the last 30 years, since I was in my early 30s, I have been with some women who were like, they knew that they were ready to get married, and so I think they had sort of decided that the next guy was going to be the one, and I was that next guy, so I was the one. So there was all that pressure in a way in those relationships. That this had to work out a certain way, and I needed to get on board, and there was like a certain amount of time that maybe I had to figure that out or not. And there were a lot of great things in those relationships, but I think the pressure was something that I was never comfortable with. And so there were like 3 distinct relationships. We ended up breaking up, and then that woman got married like within a year later. So
you're like the good luck Chuck.
Yeah.
Okay, so if people can do the math, you said in the last 30 years when you're in your early 30s. So can we reveal your age? You're in your 60s.
Yes.
Looking back on these relationships, were you always aligned to marriage? Were you always thinking, I want to get married eventually?
Yeah, I think probably from a young age, I always assumed I would get married eventually. And I wanted to. Mm-hmm. And probably at least, by the time I hit my late 20s, I think it was something I hoped would happen and wanted it to happen. So then I was with these women who were talking about it, and I knew that it was something they wanted, and I wanted to want it as well. And at times I was convinced this was in fact, I even got engaged officially to one of those women. Actually,
okay.
This was like when I was 41. So over 20 years ago, I asked this woman, Jewish woman, I'm Jewish, and hence the my show, Oi, What They Said About Love, which is a Jewish,
Oh,
yeah,
okay,
which
it
is
makes sense.
that shows a Jewish take
Oh,
on,
I got it. Don't worry.
yeah,
I'm Jewish. I
yeah,
got it.
yeah.
Well, oi is just a great word in general.
Right? Indeed it is. I guess it's coming to the American lexicon by now. But yeah, this woman, when I asked her to marry me, she said yes, and then I kind of got scared pretty quickly. Wasn't sure, and she gave me like, she was my age, and she was divorced, and she really wanted to like get married, buy a house, have a kid. And she was still hoping she could have a kid. So that biological clock was ticking pretty loudly, sometimes to a deafening level. And so and she gave me a certain amount of time. And then I guess when we hit the like a year and a half mark, we had been together, about like a year and a half. And about what it was about 5 months, I think, after I had asked her to marry me, and she said yes. Although I did so without a ring, by the way, which I think says something. Yeah, and she was okay with that, which also says something. But I told her I needed more time, and she said she couldn't give it to me, and that was the end of the relationship. And she got married to someone else, I think, about a year later.
Yeah, what's so fascinating to me with all this is that you want to get married.
Yeah.
But like you keep saying, like pressure, it's too much. Like, I freaked out, like all of that. Have you unpacked that at all, like with therapists or whoever? Like, do you have any insight into like that dichotomy?
I've tried. I think I've done therapy, not for a while now, because I felt like it didn't help. Like it didn't help me get past that finish line or make the change that I wanted to make. So I'm like, maybe therapy isn't the way for me to get there, or maybe for some reason I'm not going to get there. Somehow it's not in the cards for me, or somehow in my makeup, my constitution, my psyche, there's something that stops me. I think some fear I have that maybe goes back to childhood, perhaps, believe it or not, some relationship with my mother that I can't.
It's always that.
I know, right? That somehow I can't. I'm afraid that I'll lose myself if I get married. That if I'm in that I won't be able to keep being me or doing what I really want to do. Something will get in the way of that. So I think that is partly what scares me and stops me. Yeah.
Interesting, but you want it, but you're still scared of it.
Yeah.
Why do you want it? Why do you want marriage?
It's funny. At this point in my life, I have to admit, I'm not sure I do. I mean, up until 10 years ago, I'd say for sure, definitely.
Yeah.
In fact, even actually, I don't know, 3 years ago, I was dating a woman who I asked her. Told her I was interested, but she was not. So it's still something I think I long for. Why? I guess, for the reason people get married, that feeling of finding your soulmate and having that kind of stability and constancy in your life. I think that's what compels me about it. Like my picture of the happy home is not just me living alone, which I have been for most of my life. Like I live in a house by myself that I bought like 12 years ago. And wasn't exactly like my dream of, buying a house and just for me, and yet as I've gotten older, it's gotten more comfortable and I've gotten more content with it. Part of me wonders if I still hope, but I still wonder if I'm even that interested in getting married or if I even could do it at this point. Obviously, I haven't done it yet, but even maybe maybe the chances are even slimmer now, because of, I guess, partly my age and just that all the habits or just the routine, that comfort I've gotten into of living by myself.
Which brings us to your one-man show.
Yeah.
Would you say that relationship was the closest you've ever been to marriage?
No, I think it was maybe equally close to the other two times.
Okay.
But I think like there was one time in my early 30s, then my early 40s, and then this was 50. So it's interesting. It's always like right around the decade, I'm like, how come it didn't happen when I turned 60? But
wait till 70.
Yeah, maybe skip a decade. But I think maybe I felt more intensely in love with her though than I had with the other two women, like more kind of sure in my head. Who knows if that was delusion or infatuation or some reality as well. But I think I felt with her that I was more in love, this was like the one. And this was going to happen.
And I mean, obviously, our listeners did not see the one-man show, and they should go see it if it's near them. But I guess like one of the takeaways I had from it was that like everything kind of moved really quickly, and what we call like a microwave relationship, like it heats up real fast and then kind of evaporates. So maybe you can share, share with our audience like what happened, how you guys met, where this relationship went, and how it inevitably ended.
Yeah. Well, I met this Kenyan woman, although she was like 2 when she moved to the U.S., but she was Kenyan, and I met her when I was on vacation in Oaxaca, Mexico, introduced by a mutual friend who said, "Oh, this woman I know is, living in Oaxaca for a while, studying Spanish. You should meet her when you're there on vacation." And this was, I was like sort of taking the trip as like a gift to myself soon after I turned 50. And so we met. It was like sparks right away and great chemistry. And we had a fantastic time hanging out. And then like on our third or fourth date during my week in Oaxaca, I said, "Could you see us spending our lives together?" And she said, "Yes." And so it was, it's not exactly a proposal.
Again, sorry, just so funny for someone that's like freaking out on the inside about like,
yeah, but let's do this, stranger.
I know, right? How much sense does that make? Maybe that's the only way I could do it was like, almost being caught by surprise by it, but like being thrown into the deep end, except I threw myself in. But, and she like, really ran with it. And she was like talking about, wedding plans and how we'd have to have the ceremony in Kenya and have to give their village a cow and a couple of goats and all that stuff. And then she came to visit me and ended up staying for, I think, close to a month, where I was living in Berkeley at the time in my studio apartment. And things kind of got a little shaky. Like, I think I got nervous about how I kind of wanted things to slow down a little bit. And like, as I got kind of my reason kind of kicked back in, my frontal lobe kicked back in. And I was like, maybe we should just take a little more time to get to know each other and make sure this is really right. I think that freaked her out. I found out later, as I found out more from her, that it was kind of what had happened with her she had gotten engaged like a year before to somebody who had then, when they moved in together, instantly freaked out. And that was the end of that. So I think she kind of saw this as, that guy was a community college English teacher, by the way. So it was just my day job.
He's like, am I dating the same
what are the odds?
It was actually you. She just forgot.
Yeah, exactly. But then she went back to Oaxaca, and I kept trying to get her to. We were on Zoom a lot. Actually, that first month we were on Zoom before she came to Berkeley. It was like super intense and romantic. But anyway, when she went back to Mexico, we stayed, communicating on Zoom, and I kept wanting her to come back because I think we both were. I know I was still super attached that she was the one, and I wanted this to work, and I wanted to have another chance, like for her to come and maybe live she had actually gone to college in the Bay Area, so it wasn't like she was a total stranger to the area. So I was hoping maybe she would get her own place, and we could actually just date for a while. But like that wasn't really part of her picture, her image. So she did actually come back at some point. We did try again, but again, things as I talk about in the play, certain differences in our styles kind of built up and got to the point where like we broke up.
Your play was so nuanced, and I think that's why we loved it, because it was so nuanced. It wasn't just playing out one storyline. It was, you see the journey of you being the dreamer, because we identify that you're definitely the dreamer archetype, having this story, this image in mind, and then fitting her into the story and seeing the misfit, but her also going through the exact same journey. She had her own image, her own story she wanted to follow, her own fairy tale, and you're both trying to fit each other into your own boxes. So I think people need to go see this whenever you're doing the show again. But when you went through this experience, what was your takeaway? Were you thinking, well, she must not be right for me? Or were you thinking, I need to look more inward on what is the story I need to let go of?
Great question. I think mostly, like, especially in the immediate aftermath, I was more focused on her and her faults and shortcomings rather than looking inward. And I was more thinking, God, it was crazy for me to say, to jump in so fast and say, could you see us spending our lives together? But it was kind of crazy of her too, to like jump right back and say yes.
Yeah.
So I'm like, I kind of saw more of her different reasons. I don't want to get revealed to, say too much about her personal stuff, but different reasons why she was in such a rush and why she felt the need, I think, for security and to have somebody, in her life and to be married. So I think for her too, it was like, did she really know me? Like, did we really know each other? And no,
Right.
There's no way that's possible so quickly. And so I think I felt like she was stepping on the gas pedal too much for her own reasons and maybe insecurities.
So I feel like I'm going to be honest, Steve. My worst nightmare is what you've described of like someone. Truly,
Thanks for playing that out.
It is one of my worst nightmares. And we actually had another guest a few seasons back that had some similarities in his story when we did the episode with Ryan Van Duzer. And I think this idea of someone being like, let's get married, let's do this, let's move forward, and then just being like, oop, never mind, let's pump the brakes. I don't know. And I get it. Like, you clearly just got ahead of yourself. And it sounds like with the other person that you proposed to, this also happened. Was this like a pattern, and was this played out in multiple relationships, or like how did this happen?
Yeah, it certainly looks like a pattern, right? Like that.
Well, it's two. I know two, at least from what you said. Yeah. I don't know what your other history is like.
And maybe all three of those relationships from the one in the early 30s, one early 40s, one at 50, that that were, I think I had, especially in my early 40s and the one at 50, where like I wanted it to happen. Like even like at 40, New Year's Eve, I was with my friends, celebrating dinner as we moved into the year 2000. And I was like, I really want to get married. I want to find my significant other this year. And then I meet this woman that spring, like right after my birthday, and right after turning 40. And I think I had a picture. I had something I wanted to have happen. And then I kind of, this person, okay, this is it then. And so, I guess that's my mistake, instead of really seeing what's there and really giving myself the time to experience this person and really know what's there, instead trying to force it into this picture.
Have you heard the term love bombing before?
Yeah.
Okay, so I feel like love bombing comes more from like a narcissistic tendency of laying it on thick at the beginning to like regain control. And I'm not getting that from you. Getting that from you. I'm getting more of like the dreamer. I just want the big like love story and getting ahead of myself. But then kind of when reality sets in, realizing like, oh shit, like I actually need to be in a relationship. Like it can't just be this big grandiose love story. Would you say that's accurate, or like how would you?
Yeah, that sounds pretty accurate. I think from reading books about attachment styles, I guess I fit into like the avoidant. I think I have some of that insecure attachment style too. But I think avoidant is kind of obvious from the way on the surface. That's the way what I tend to do. I think some of that is some people in that avoidant who fall into that also like feel like they're really in love right away.
Yeah.
So I don't know what that's all about exactly, but yeah.
Well, I want to say this though. I truly believe the world could use more people like you, because you actually do lead with your heart. When you talk about being in love with these women and wanting to create a future with them, I truly believe you wanted that in the moment. So I don't think there's any sort of, you're not lying to yourself. I don't think you're covering anything up. I think you truly just lead with your heart. I think where the balance needs to happen is, again, kind of like the logical side of things. And I think you have a very clear image of who your wife is.
Huh.
And there's a little bit of inflexibility.
Steve's like, I don't. News to me. Yeah. He's like, thanks, Yue. I don't know if that's accurate.
Really tell me who she is. Yue?
It's just there's like, lack of flexibility in terms of the people coming into your life and not fitting into this image. But I want to know, if we did a lineup of all your exes right now, if we put them in a lineup and we asked him, how would you describe Steve now looking back into your history? Would they put you in the bucket of perpetual bachelor, can't settle down? Or would they put you in the bucket of just can't commit? Like, which one is it?
Those are pretty closely related though, aren't they? Are they so distinct?
Okay. Yeah, how do you define them differently?
Perpetual bachelor player wants to just play the field, says he wants to settle down, but he's just really like lying to us. Or truly incapable of committing.
I think the latter is what they would say.
They would.
I think they'd probably say, this guy can't do it. He wants to, but he can't.
Yeah.
And they do feel that. They feel that you want it.
A couple of women have said that to me in the immediate aftermath, like I wish I had known before that this is something you can't do.
That's the impression I get from you, is like you want it so badly, but there's a block somewhere of like, why can't it go? I guess, like, do you, like, looking back, I know sometimes in hindsight, things become more clear. Like, in the moment, you're like, I'm so in love with this person. Like, do you truly believe you were, like, in love with these people? Or, like, looking back, was it more infatuation?
I think with certainly the first two, I think I was, but maybe I do wonder about, the Kenyan woman at 50, if that was more infatuation and just like, just all fantasy and Walt Disney and you know, the
Right.
Disneyland version of love. I don't know, but I think, but what I had strong feelings, and my friend and people like friends of mine who saw me were like, yeah, I think you're in love. I never saw you like that.
Okay.
So, but I think it's a combination. But yeah.
So the other two that you were with, like, were those more like traditional in the sense like you met in the same town? It wasn't like a vacation fling. It had more time go by.
Yeah.
And then you said those lasted like a couple years, right?
Yeah. I guess actually a year and a half.
Do you look back at those two, or actually those three relationships, and consider any of them the one that got away? That we wish you had done something different?
Yeah, I think when the one in my early 30s, I think of her as like this incredible woman who was so special and amazing things going for her. And I think I just wasn't ready at that point. Like, there's no way I could have done it then as much as I wanted to. But apparently I haven't been able to do it since then either. But but I think about her, I guess she's the one who I think maybe, got away. At least I wish that, it's, if you could like follow multiple paths in your life, I wish I could have traveled that path. And I'm so curious, like, what would have happened? Would we have gotten divorced a few years later, or would it have worked? Yeah. I guess part of me, a little bit of me is curious about that with the other two women as well, but less so. I just don't think those relationships would have worked.
If you met today, how do you think your relationship would be different, or do you think the same stuff would have come up?
I always like to think it's going to be different, but but realistically, I think the same stuff would come up.
Interesting.
Yeah.
So your relationship with your mom.
You had to go there.
Of all of this, yeah.
Is that the elephant in the room? Yeah. Okay.
Okay. If we could interview your mom today, what would she say would be the reason why you haven't gotten married?
Wow, that's interesting. What would my mom say about why I haven't gotten married? I think she might say that, like you said, I'm kind of a dreamer. And like she always said, I'm like looking up at the heavens to like tell me like what to do for a living, was kind of the way she was the context that she put it in at the time, not about romantic relationships. But I think, she'd say, he's been with so many wonderful women. Any one of several women could have been a great match. But I think, the thing about me being like a dreamer and maybe expecting something or wanting something that I can't find in reality.
And what was your relationship with your mom like? Were you like very close? Were you not close? Like, what does that look like?
As a kid, I was close. Probably the quintessential mama's boy.
Okay.
More connected to my mom than my dad, and felt more comfortable with my mom than my dad. She was more overtly loving than my father was, for sure, and a lot more available, and encouraged me and like gave me a lot of praise, and kind of saw the creative side in me and tried to nurture that and give me a lot of, like I said, praise. And I would turn to her as a kid, I had a lot of insecurities and fears, and she's the person I would confide in, and she would try to give me support and make me feel better. Then at some point, I think maybe around the time I went off to college, probably I felt less connected to her, and maybe put up a wall. It wasn't as apt didn't share as much of what was going on with myself personally as a grown up.
And your parents' relationship with each other, what was that like growing up?
I think I thought it was okay. It definitely wasn't like a relationship that made me think marriage was great. It wasn't like I didn't think it was a great marriage. I thought it was okay. I wasn't sure they were such a great match. Like I think they got married for a lot of traditional reasons with two Jewish people who lived in small town New Hampshire, and my mother was best friends with my dad's younger sister, and he was 4 years older. So and they got married right after she graduated from college. So I think it was partly timing and all that. But he could be kind of a gruff, or at least a very introverted guy. Kept to himself a lot. Kind of the image I always have of him is sitting in his armchair, smoking his pipe, listening to classical music, and reading the newspaper. And so that was him, kind of hidden behind the newspaper. Whereas my mom was like always on the phone and connecting with her many siblings, and she was the youngest of 13 kids, and she had a lot of friends and a lot of connections, and like very much a people person, and he was more, I guess, like a book or ideas person.
I mean, obviously we don't need to go into a full-on therapy session, but like
Why not?
Have you connected the dots? Because there's nothing like in at least what you've told us, there's nothing standing out of like why this is seeping into your like adult life. Like sometimes it's very clear from people that their model of love was broken early on. And I'm wondering, have you done any like reflection of upbringing and how that impacts how you have been commitment phobic?
I mean, yeah, I think somewhat. I think partly maybe feeling, like I said, my fear of being in a relationship is that I'm going to lose myself. So I think I felt some of that with my mother, that it was more about tuning into her and trying to be the good boy or do what she wanted, as opposed to exploring me and knowing who I was and being myself, whatever that might be. Maybe
Interesting.
I think there was somewhat of a narrow window of what was considered like a good boy or good behavior or how you could be in different ways in the household. But what else? I think seeing my parents, what to me felt like underlying tension, although they didn't really have overt fights. They weren't, no screaming at each other or anything like that, but just feeling some tension, and the occasional snide remark from my dad made me feel like this wasn't such a great marriage. So it wasn't like, wow, I want to have what they have. So I didn't grow up with like a picture, like, it wasn't a lot of physical affection between them. Although when they got older, they would like sit and watch TV and hold hands. And so that was nice to see when I would visit, as an older adult. But they've both passed away, by the way, in case you didn't know that. But aside from that, I think my dad was, my dad being distant and feeling kind of criticized by my dad, that didn't help me go out into the world with like confidence or whatever that relationship could have been, that could have helped me with other relationships. And my mom, I think there was a lot of good, communication and connection there, but there was also, like I said, maybe that sense that I couldn't be fully myself with her, or that somehow I needed to get away from her to be myself, So I think that stuff plays out.
Have you felt like that with significant others, like the people in your life that you've dated? Like, have you felt like you could be your true self?
I think I always feel like there's something holding me back. So I don't know.
Huh.
I don't know if that's them or me. Yeah.
Like what part of you that you're holding back?
I mean, I guess, maybe I don't know if that's the right way to put it. I think there is an element of that, but also like feeling on some level with them that like one, like say one girlfriend always wanted to like spend Sundays together. And so like, okay, we have to spend Sundays together. And then sometimes I could feel trapped and like, it's not really what I want to be. I wish I could be doing something else. So there's that part of it, Huh.
But what's the balance there, right? Of like compromising in a relationship and not losing yourself. And maybe this is like a question for all of us to think about, because I think that's a very real thing, right? It's like, maybe I don't want to do every last thing with my partner, but at some point you're like, well, this is holding our relationship together. There's two of us, versus like, I'm losing myself, right?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
But then you get into the danger zone. This is like what I'm always balancing in my relationship is you can have two people holding their boundaries and then living separate lives.
Right. That's what I mean. Yeah.
You hold your boundaries and then you get curious about why your partner has these boundaries and you discuss them. And maybe some people call that a compromise, but I think it's about leaning in to why your partner is the way they are. Have you had a partner in a relationship where you may be pushing them away and they lean in? They get curious. They want to have a conversation.
Yeah, I think I've had some girlfriends where we would have the conversation, or they would present me with the book to read about attachment style.
A book. Okay.
Like, fix yourself. Go.
Self-help at its finest.
Yeah, really. Yeah.
But what about just opening up a discussion? I'm curious. I'm curious why you're pushing me away. Or
that's a great point. And I think I have done a little couples therapy with the woman when I was 30, and a little tiny bit with the other two women as well that I mentioned, the other two significant relationships. And there was another girlfriend who we did a little bit of couples therapy. So there was like that desire to get help from an else who would make us do exactly what you're talking about. I know it's hard. I think that's fantastic what you just suggested. And I think it's hard in a way because easy to get defensive with that. And I think maybe the girlfriends and me were more apt to get defensive rather than to have that kind of open inquiry and leaning in, like you said.
I think something you've brought up quite a lot is fear. And I think that's very relatable to people. And we can really let fear hold us back from things we want. And some fear is healthy, right? To like think of things through, but then other times it can be like completely debilitating, right? Like it doesn't let you do the things in life that you want. How have you addressed fear, and how do you think fear still seeps in, and what are you doing about it?
What are you doing
What am
about
I
it?
doing about it? Yeah?
Just letting it
Coming
take
on this,
over,
coming on
or
the
yeah.
show.
Coming on this podcast, exactly. Doing my solo shows, maybe putting the stuff out there into the
Yeah.
world on
Yeah.
some level. I think doing some therapy, although like I said, I haven't done therapy for several years now. Meditating, occasionally doing things like, a workshop weekend type thing and hoping that will lead to some kind of breakthrough, being aware of the fear, hoping to let go of it,
Yeah.
hoping it'll change. But yeah, I guess I don't really know. I don't have a great answer to that.
Mhm.
I want to dive into this even more, but before we do, let's take a quick break to hear from our partners.
What's the one thing about your health you wish someone had told you years ago? Well, for me, it's how important the gut is. Truly, the gut is the foundation of overall health and vitality. It's not just about digestion. The gut affects everything from your energy levels and mood to weight management and even longevity. And while most gut supplements contain probiotics or probiotics and prebiotics at best, Bioma contains all three essential ingredients your gut needs. Visit gobioma.com/dateable today. That includes prebiotics, probiotics, and postbiotics. Each ingredient is science-backed and third-party tested. Just take 2 capsules before breakfast and take the guesswork out of feeling your best. Visit gobioma.com/dateable today for an extra 15% off your order. That's gobioma.com/dateable and get an extra 15% off.
Have you ever rooted for a central couple in a horror movie? Then you are going to love House of Rain by New York Times bestselling TikTok sensation Harley LaRue. Happy endings and horror can mix after all. It's a gothic sapphic romance meets supernatural suspense, equal parts sinfully spicy and bone chilly. Salem was supposed to be on her honeymoon. Instead, she's trapped at Belfour Manor with Rain, a woman hiding secrets as dark as the house itself. This book gets 4 out of 5 peppers for bringing the heat. If you're a fan of The House Across the Lake by Riley Sager or Verity by Colleen Hoover, this must-read thriller is for you. The book just sucks you in. I swear, I even caught myself looking behind my shoulder once or twice because Harley LaRue builds this tension that just lingers. You can find House of Rain by Harley LaRue wherever books are sold in print and in ebook. The gorgeous deluxe hardcover first printing is only available for a limited time, so grab yours before they are gone. With the holidays right around the corner, it's time for me to start planning all the festive meals and treats for the season. Frozen Washington red raspberries are the ultimate holiday shortcut to flavor, as they are picked at peak ripeness and frozen within hours to lock in their bright, sweet tart taste. I love raspberries in my desserts, and boy does this cran raspberry pecan tart sound delicious. Grown by passionate farmers in Washington state, they're frozen with care to ensure top quality and food safety, and it always feels good to support local American farmers. And here's the best part. They're always in season. When you buy American-grown frozen raspberries, you're getting fresh off the field flavor all year long. You can find them at Costco, Kroger, Meijer, and Winco Foods. Make sure to look for product in the U.S. on the bag. Check out True Fruit Mars Hyper Chilled Chocolate Covered Raspberries and Smucker's Raspberry Jam. Want to learn more details on where to find American frozen red raspberries plus recipe ideas and cooking tips? Head to redraz.org. That's redrazz.org. You'll find participating retailers as an inspiration for every meal, plus info on how these berries go from farm to freezer with quality you can taste.
Is there a married couple in your life who you look to and say, that's the type of marriage I want? That's the reason why I want to get married.
I mean, there's some friends of mine who have been married for a number of years. I'm trying to think if relatives that I can think of, but I'd say some friends of mine who've been married for several years who look like they have a really good connection. Some like,
Okay.
it would be nice.
What does that look like? What does a good connection look
Like
like?
they have a lot of companionship. They mostly having meals together and so trying to support each other, like be there for each other for the things that are important to them and going on vacations together, stuff like that. And also having very much their own lives, like their own individual pursuits that are separate. sometimes because I have a lot of Jewish friends that I see in a lot of these couples that there's like might be a disconnect where one of them loves going to services and the other one doesn't, or one of them feels very observant and ardent about Judaism. The other one could kind of take it or leave it. So like, I know they've had some frustration and challenges there around that, but also I think there's been some ways in which they've compromised and come together to like be there sometimes. So the couple, say the husband who's not less into services will go sometimes because he wants to be there for his wife, and also the wife realizing she doesn't have to have her husband there at services. She can enjoy being at services for herself and for the community, and maybe create stronger relationships at the synagogue because she's there by herself.
Like so that's like a model of maybe sometimes being, compromising, and then other times being more self-sufficient.
Yeah.
That's interesting. I think that's good.
Yeah.
I guess like another question for you, because when you wrote into us, you said you're still hopeful. And I think that's really important for people to hear, because I think there's a lot of people that are, in a similar boat, whether it's been one relationship that hasn't worked out or a lot of relationships that they thought were going to go somewhere that didn't. How do you stay hopeful? Like, what does that mean to you? And how are you kind of practicing that?
Good question. I mean, I guess, how do I stay hopeful? I guess maybe that's part of my nature. Maybe it's part of human nature and part of mine. So I think
it's definitely a dreamer tendency. Yes.
Yeah.
So it's partly ingrained. So in a way, I don't have to try. It's just, that's kind of like where I'm going to be, At times I get discouraged and lose hope, but then, it doesn't really feel that good. So I tend to come back to the hopeful place, but also maybe more accepting that it might not work out. And that's okay. Yeah. Like, I don't want to be disappointed if the rest of my life I'm single. Like, I want it to be okay. Right. Like, still find joy in life and be happy, despite that. Although it would be really nice. I have some friends who met and fell in love in their early 60s. So it's like, okay, so maybe it could still happen.
Is it the marriage part that you're hopeful about, or is it falling in love and having a long-term relationship that you're hopeful about?
I guess both, but probably more the falling in love and having a long-term relationship.
Okay. So it doesn't have to be marriage.
No, it doesn't have to be, especially now, because I'm not going to have kids. Unless if I fell in love with a 30-year-old and she really wanted to have kids, I guess we could. But yeah.
You never know.
I guess the youngest I'm supposed to go is 39, right? According to that formula. Divide your age by 2 and add 7?
Oh, I don't know what formula this is.
Yeah, that sounds scary. That sounds scary.
So are you actively dating right now, or like what's your dating life look like?
I guess not right now, but I kind of no. Like I hadn't gone on any dates for I think over a year, and then I started to put out feelers. I think I don't know, last winter or spring, and then I went on a handful of dates, I guess, in the spring.
Okay.
And then I ended up, getting busy and going away, performing my show at various places like San Diego and Ottawa. So I haven't been around to date. So, I'm interested in, and those dates, didn't go anywhere. They were like one-offs, either because I wasn't interested or the woman wasn't. I would meet people at parties and I'd put it out there, like I'd like to meet somebody, and a couple people, said, "Oh, I have someone I can introduce you to." So.
Have you ever done apps before?
I have.
Are you like a strictly okay?
I don't.
So you've done.
Yeah, I don't really like doing the apps, but I have done the apps, and it's been several years since I've done the apps. And I'm thinking maybe I should do them again because it does open up a whole nother pool. Yeah.
I'm surprised you haven't met anybody at one of your shows.
Occasionally, I've had some dates from someone in the audience who we connect.
Oh, okay. It has happened.
It's happened a couple times. Yeah.
Okay.
And once turned into a relationship, actually. That ended.
Okay.
I guess,
okay. Wait, hold on.
Once.
Once. Okay. Yeah. And in doing research for your play, and in as part of your play too, you've interviewed lots of married couples.
Yeah.
What is the through line for what makes a marriage successful that you found?
Luck. I tell you what. No, the through line. I'm not sure I found one because it's different with different people, but I think. A lot of it is trust. And I think part of it, like you just feel like you trust this person in a way that you didn't trust anybody else. And part of it is like a lot of people have romantic images, like a romantic ideal, like the person's going to look like this. They're going to be like that. And then they meet this person who doesn't look like this. It isn't like that. And they have to kind of get over that cognitive dissonance and accept and realize, okay, fine, this person is not, doesn't fit that image, but wow, I really like this person. It's great to spend time with this person and you fall in love. So maybe that came up a lot, where people
Mhm.
had certain
Yeah.
images that they then had to let go of. Sometimes I think meeting the family helped, like once they then were with their partner and spent time with the partner's family. They're like, wow, this is a great family. I like the way it feels being with these people. That helps some people. Trying to think, I think in general, I think people seem like they gave it time. I don't think I've interviewed like 36 couples. I actually interviewed a lot of couple dozen singles as well, although that material ended up not making it into the show. But so I have some, a lot of data about different ways in which people pursue relationships and end up married. But like one woman who had some, I've heard some good wisdom, I guess, from people from doing these interviews. Like one woman said, like when she gets annoyed with her now husband, like instead of blaming him, she kind of looks at herself and says, what is it about me that's getting annoyed? Which I'm like, that seems pretty enlightened. I like the idea. I don't think I can do that. I want to. I've never been able to do that. I hope I can someday. But instead of just saying, okay, that's a reason I can't be with this person,
Yeah, that's what I was going to ask you, because like time came up as something, giving it a lot of time. And we talked about your microwave relationship. Like, what have you kind of taken from the advice you heard from others into your own life? Like, has it changed the way you date and pick partners at all?
I hate to say it, but I guess not yet. Not apparently. Although I'd like to think
It's okay.
so.
It's being honest. Yeah.
I guess not. You'd think it would. I mean, one like this one woman who I interviewed, one couple, the woman said, you have to kind of forgive people for being human. Like no one's kind 100% of the time.
Yeah.
No one's hardworking 100% of the time. No one's sexy 100% of the time. And it's like, wow, yeah. I think that's something I have a hard time with. And hopefully I could get to the point where I could be with somebody and accept that.
Right.
Yeah.
I mean, not to like make parallels 100% to the other episode we did, but I'm going to a little. But you guys are different people, so I'll recognize this. But we had another guest that very similar to you, like fell fast, and then the relationship got real. And then he kind of was like, I can't do this. This is too much. Do you feel like there's an element for you of that like once the fantasy is kind of removed and you get into more of that day-to-day, kind of like what that person that you interviewed was saying, that people aren't perfect 100% of the time or sexy 100% of the time, whatever it is. Like, do you feel like that's something that shows up for you?
Yeah, it does indeed. Yeah, definitely. Something I need to work on.
I feel like that's something for dreamers in general that I could see popping up, because you have this very like distinct fantasy of like the love story, but not necessarily like the day-to-day of a relationship. Because I feel like for me, I'm a fellow dreamer, so I will speak on that behalf.
Yep.
I feel like I always imagined the falling in love part, but I never actually thought about like, what would it be like to be in a relationship with someone? Like the more practical part, like that never even like came into my mind. I was lucky that like eventually once I got there, I was ready for it. But like I could see in a past version of myself being that person that was like, oh wait, this isn't all like fun and games anymore.
I forget, you're married or you have a significant other?
I'm
right?
getting married in like a month. Yeah.
So you've made some changes in that regard. You've grown in that respect, right?
Totally. And I think a lot of it's the podcast and just changing my perspective of like what dating and relationships are like. I think for a while, I mean, I think some of the traits that actually drew me to my current partner are things that I would not have prioritized in the past. I was in also an on again, off again relationship, which I think is very common for dreamers because we want it to work more than anything. And I think I used to just like really prioritize like the highs of dating. And I think like when things felt stable, it felt boring to me. And I started to like appreciate the consistency and boring, quote unquote, because it's not boring. It's just calming, looking at it differently. So it was a shift I made.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, I kind of like now that I'm older, I like the idea of kind of the boring and like, having meals together, just doing your routine side by side with somebody, and they're going off to do their day, but you come back, you have this points where you reconnect and meet during the day.
But also to see Julie's journey, she also found the right partner. I think that is, if she found someone equally as dreamy and maybe impulsive, this would not work.
No.
She found a partner who's a thinker. That's his archetype. He leans in to these conflicts that they have because he gets curious about it. and then has a conversation about it because he wants to understand. Like he
Problem
comes from a place of
solve. Yeah.
understanding, not criticizing or being judgmental. And I think in some of your stories, Steve, you've been with people who are equally as dreamy, equally as impulsive, equally as stuck to that image of falling in love and what that story looks like, but also equally as clueless about the practical day to day. And then that's where the conflict really arises. It's like in your play, you give the example of the Kenyan woman making a mess in your kitchen. And you found that so annoying. Like, I was like, that's exactly the moment you realize, oh shit, like this is real now. We're not living in a fantasy. Like, this is what it's like to live with this person on a day-to-day basis.
Yeah. I think maybe that second serious relationship I mentioned to you, when at 40, 41, I think she was more of a thinker and less of a dreamer.
Yeah.
And she was more like practical. Like, I'm 40, I'm soon to be 41. I need to get married, buy a house, have a kid. Like this has to happen. And I want this to happen.
Yeah.
So I don't know how much.
But that's a dreamer. I actually would argue that's a dreamer.
It's an achiever more.
Dreamer, achiever. I don't think that's a thinker. A thinker wouldn't go by these milestones.
Okay.
A thinker is more like, okay, let's think about why is it that I want a kid? Why is it I want to get married? They're more in the reasoning of it all.
Yeah. I think maybe I would say she was more in her head than in her heart. That's my
Yeah.
That's
that would be achiever tendency.
She sounds like an achiever.
Yeah.
I guess like knowing this, would that like, I guess maybe it's a good segue to over the different, we have a lot of different decades to go through, but like starting in your 20s to 60s, like high level, maybe like, how do you think dating has changed for you of just like what you're looking for, what you're doing, all of that. And then like, where do you want the 60s to go? Knowing all the things you know now.
Yeah. I mean, I think it's easier when you're younger. It's just like, there's like this big pool of available people in your 20s. Like everybody's single, it seems like, so you're constantly, whereas my age, much less so. Plus I'm not doing the same activities or going the same places where I was in my 20s, where I would have, met all these available people. So it becomes harder in that way. I'm still, definitely drawn to like physical attractiveness, like the person. I feel like that has to be there. Like that's the initial pull, but I think maybe less so than it used to be. A little bit less so maybe than it used to be, because I'm more interested in the real qualities and the real connection that I can have with somebody.
I love that.
Where do you want the next chapter to go? Knowing like what we were just talking about and all that.
I mean, I guess the chat would be like going on more dates, and then meeting someone who I want to keep dating and then spend time with, and then feel like, wow, this feels different and something I want to go deeper with and spend more time. Some person I want to spend more time. Like someone I interviewed said she, instead of bringing her agenda when she was dating, she was hoping to get married and ultimately did. But she, instead of like feeling like, is this the person? Is this the right one? Is this the one? Is this the guy I want to marry? So instead, just kind of asking yourself after a date or two, is this given a free afternoon, is this a person I'd want to spend it with? And I think, that's a great way to think about it and look at it. Also, something I heard, maybe it was on a tea leaf or tea bag, one of those things. I don't know, I forget where I came across. It's like to be with the person with whom you most enjoy conversing. And I think that is like a great thing, a great thing to look for that I'd like to find.
What about slowing things down and taking more time? Because that's been a theme that you said. Like, is that something you're actively incorporating?
I mean, because I haven't really gone on many dates. I can't really say whether I'm incorporating it yet or not.
Okay.
It's in my mind. It's in the back of my mind, maybe closer to the front. But at the same time, even though it's in my mind, I don't know if I can honestly follow that wisdom. I think I'm still like, because of my nature, I'm still apt to like move quickly and think this is the one. And start immediately imagining we're going to spend the rest of our lives together.
Yeah.
Which is ridiculous, but there you are.
It's good to have the awareness though, that like you go there. So it can at least be like a thought of like, when you get into that mode of like, oh my God, this is the one, be like, wait, we've only known each other for an hour. Like let's slow things down a little.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, because you can't go against who you naturally are, and you're naturally going to go there.
Yeah.
It probably helps to even just say it out loud to yourself,
Yeah.
but then come back to reality. With dreamers, we always say like, "Hello, come back to earth."
Fact
You know?
check yourself.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Yeah.
come back to reality, see what's actually going on, but feel free to fantasize still because that is truly part of who
Yeah.
you are.
Yeah.
The thing is, even if you suppress it a little as a dreamer, you're still like, overall, you're still like oozing and hopeful about love. Like, that's not going to go away. It's more of just this reality check of like, oh, wait, I don't really know this person yet. Like, kind of that piece.
Yeah.
What what advice would you give your 40-year-old self today?
I'd say maybe ask that question. Given a free afternoon, is this really the person I want to
Yeah.
spend time with? And
Okay.
like, don't be achievement oriented. Don't think about the goal. Don't think about the destination. Like, I need to get married. Instead, think about the connection and really see, how do I feel with this person? How do they show up with me? How do I show up with them? And is that what I want long term?
And then, what is some parting advice you have for anyone that wants to still feel optimistic about finding love?
Wow, parting words. I guess it's still out there. It happens for a lot of people. It can happen for you. I see a lot of good marriages and good couples. So
I mean, I think this has been so interesting, and thank you for just being honest. Like, I think sometimes, like,
Yeah.
people want to say what they think that people should hear, and you
yeah,
were just like, I don't know, and I'm still figuring it out. And I think that's good. I think that's important to like honor that. And I mean, I think regardless of our experiences, staying hopeful and just like appreciating life. Like you said, like, look, of course I want to find someone and meet someone, but I'm also like happy with my life. It's gonna be okay. And I think that's really important. And it's not like giving up or anything like that. It's just being realistic that like one piece, like your entire happiness doesn't necessarily ride on getting married and finding the person. It can obviously enhance that happiness,
yeah,
but it's not dependent on the whole thing. I think this other piece around fair, I know it's a work in progress. I know it's something that we all have to think about, but I think it's something I think about a lot of like, is this something that I'm like actually just giving into like the fair, or like is this healthy and it's guiding me? Because I think a lot of times our heads can tell us anything, right? Like it can our brains could talk us out of something, and that might not actually be what we want. It just might be the easier path to like not actually put ourselves out there and do the thing.
hmm,
So I think fair is just something that is so relatable to
Yeah.
everyone. And again, it's not an easy solution, as you said too, like not fully there, but that's okay. I think it's a work in progress and things happen incrementally over time. But just like being aware is the first step of like, what are these tendencies, whether it's fear or getting ahead of yourself or whatever thing it might be, that you're like knowing that it might not be serving you, but also like realizing like some of this is just who I am, and that's okay. That's kind of like what we're doing with the archetypes. Is we're never going to say, Steve, stop being a dreamer, but it's like
Yeah.
what parts of a dreamer might not actually be serving you, and how do you just like gain awareness of them instead of being like, I need to change my whole personality.
mm-hmm. Yeah, good point. It's good perspective for sure.
I think it's all about perspective. Looking back at your story, someone could say, "Oh, how tragic. He hasn't found love." Or someone could say, "Damn, he's had a nice collection of love
Yeah.
stories."
Yeah.
I would say for the latter, I would much rather be in your position than be stuck in a 30-year loveless marriage. Yet, where yes, I have someone to go eat dinner with, but I absolutely hate this person or detest this person, or I'm so lonely in this relationship, or I'm just feeling nothing in this relationship. I'd rather feel a lot of something in
Yeah.
many relationships versus nothing in a long-term relationship. So that's the perspective that I'm bringing into this is you actually have had some great love stories. And thank you for sharing those, but also thank yourself for going through those experiences. Those are really nice. And then I would also say that for you and for all dreamers, it's the challenge of how do you re-look at your definition of a relationship? How do you redefine what connection is? And maybe for you, Steve, just throwing it out there, maybe the next relationship you get into, it starts with a friendship first. Maybe it's like a multi-year friendship where you really develop this platonic relationship with each other to find that companionship that then turns into something romantic. I don't know, could happen, but I think that the best question you can ask yourself is, could I? Could it be? Maybe. The possibilities are out there, but it's about trying something different or re-looking, redefining.
Yeah. It's funny you say that, Yue, because like recently asked a woman out and she said, when she said, well, for the first time, I don't want to just go out one-on-one. Like when we go out, I want there to be a couple other people there. You know, even though she knew me, like she wanted to take away some of that intensity or pressure of the romantic expectations, I guess. And that she said she wants to go, whatever happens, she wants to make sure we go really slow and that we make sure that there's a lot of friendship and rapport there first before. I'm like, oh,
what?
I know. And then this is what you said. Yeah.
What was your reaction to that? Were you just like, oh my God, that's basically the opposite of me?
Partly I'm like, oh man, it's like I have to jump through all these hoops, or like this is somebody's defenses, and this is more complicated. Why can't it be simpler? And part of me is like, it's probably the best way for anything to work out for me would be if I could actually do that. You know? Yeah.
So is this a yes?
So we have another date scheduled. It's like a few weeks from now.
Okay. And don't even call it a date.
Yeah.
Like just take date off the table.
Yeah.
You're getting to know each other. That is it.
That's
so
it. Yeah.
I feel like this is your path, because you know how you were saying earlier how like every decade you have like that big person and then it was missed in the 60s. I think the 60s is going to be a slow burn.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
A slow burn is good.
Actually,
it's like the universe telling you like we're not going to be throwing you these like microwave relationships anymore.
All right.
No.
Well, yeah.
Well, keep us updated.
I will,
please.
for sure. Yeah.
Well, thanks again for sharing. I think you were very vulnerable. I think this is really relatable to a lot of people that are either going through this themselves, this feeling of, I want to be in a relationship, but do I want to be in a relationship? Or being on the opposite side when someone does this. I know for years, like I had the on again, off again relationship, and now I can see like he just wasn't capable of being in a relationship. But I think in the moment, I took it really personally.
Mm-hmm.
And I think hearing people's perspectives like yours, for instance, it shows that a lot of it just has to do with the other individual. Like it really wasn't the women necessarily. Like maybe they weren't the right fit, but there was also like patterns that it wasn't like, you know, this was kind of just how it was, right?
Right. Yeah, totally. It was great talking with you both. Happy to have the chance.
If people want to learn more about your one-man show, where can they go?
Hopefully I can get my website together. I mean, it's up there. I don't have the new information on it, but it is stevebudd.com. So that's another place. And I always post stuff on Facebook and Instagram. So
great.
Yeah.
We'll link your website and handles in the show notes as well.
Sounds good.
Yay.
Awesome.
Thank you again, Steve.
You're welcome.
You're such a great storyteller as well. So
thank you.
Throw that in there.
I appreciate
Natural
that.
storyteller.
Thank you.
Okay. Well, thank you again. Thank you to our listeners. What did you learn from this episode? What is something you're optimistic about? Why don't you give us a rating and review in Apple Podcasts? You can give us 5 stars there in the body of your review. Tell us, what did you learn from Steve in this conversation? And if you're on Spotify, you can actually comment directly on this episode. What is your biggest takeaway about love? Finding love, hope for love. And on that note, we're going to wrap up this episode. Stay dateable. Oh, yes. The riff.
Woo.